Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday, August 3rd, to everybody listening. A happy beginning to August to everybody out there. Happy aftermath of Mile of Music. Happy aftermath of the weekend. Happy everything. I'm glad you guys are here. Um, as you can see, still not in the apartment. Well, I'm in a apartment. I'm in my friend Justin's apartment. He was fortunate or friendly enough to offer me a place. Probably going to be here again tomorrow. I may never get internet again. We will never know, but we're making it work, and I appreciate the kindness. And so many people have been offering me places to stop by and do the show. Um, so I do appreciate all of you guys for doing that. But we're good. We're cruising along here. Hello to everybody trickling in on the TikTok as well as the Tube of You and the Book of Faces. Thank you very much for being here, everybody. Um, 1 month away from the big starting point here for the new studio. I'm actually going down. We're going to be announcing the studio sponsor later this week. You're going to find out who's going to be facilitating me, at least initially. I'm going down to check out the space today as there's some renovations being made and essentially scope out exactly how I'm intending to put everything together here, which I'm very excited about. Let me maximize this picture. That's kind of bothering me. There we go. But we'll have more on that later. I'm going down after I wrap up the show today to check that out, though, which I'm very excited about. Lots to jump into here from over the weekend. Spend some time at Mile of Music, which I don't know for those of you that made it out there, and I understand why, absolutely. But it was much more reserved. It was much quieter. It was much more relaxed than any other Mile of Music that I have ever been to, and understandably so from a local perspective. But I have to say, and I'm interested for those of you that were there, there wasn't a lot of there was a lot of indoor venues this time relative to the outdoor thing. And Friday, the weather was a bit trash, but all in all, I was kind of surprised by the turnout over the course of the weekend. I was there on Saturday as well for the bulk of the day, and it was a very beautiful day out on Saturday. And Jones Park was still doing the Jones Park thing, but man, oh man, man, oh man, there was a lot out there. And good morning, good morning, good morning. As more people trickle in, I'm glad you guys are stopping by here. I apologize for the inconsistent nature in which I've been posting the last couple of days. We're trying to work on that. God willing, we'll have internet back by the end of the week here. I was talking with Justin, and I said, "Yeah, gamer, I've missed you guys too." I told Ali, I was like, "Please let the people in the Discord chat know that I'm sorry I haven't been active. I haven't been on my Signal chats. I haven't been on Discord. People are sending me pictures, and I'm like, I can't download pictures. They're sending me videos, all this stuff. I feel so disconnected from everything going on, but we're getting there. We're getting there. And as I often tell myself, I realize there's people going through a whole hell of a lot worse than anything I've had to deal with. Um, uh, Over the course of the last 9 days. So I keep that in check, but I'm trying my damnedest here to maintain a consistent schedule. I do have homes scheduled to let me in, so if Spectrum wants to be a bastard and not fix the internet all weekend or all week, I will have a place to at least do the morning shows. The evening shows, unfortunately, are going to be on hiatus until I can figure out a little bit of good news in terms of the power front in Menasha. There's uh there's a McDonald's on my road that has been closed since the tornado last Monday. And when I drove past it this morning to come to Justin's place, they had a line. And so I'm like, okay, maybe something's going to happen here, but we'll find out. Is anything going on next Tuesday? I believe it's your birthday, CKK. And we'll be talking about that in a moment. Don't you worry. The primary, not your birthday, unfortunately. I saw Spider Man 2, gamer. Here's the deal. I went to go see the new Spider Man movie, and it's pro flock camera. I don't know how I feel about that. Uh, you gotta read the whole thing. You gotta read the whole thing. Carla's asking what's with this shirt today. You know what's funny? Is I wore this shirt to Mile of Music on Saturday, and I just threw it back on, and so many people came up and hugged me and said I love the shirt. And I'm like, they didn't read the bottom. I know who's telling me they like this shirt right now, and they didn't read the bottom. I already know this. But yeah, so that's the shirt that I'm wearing right now. Uh but yeah, so we'll get into that more later. I need to get my movies podcast back off the ground because I could go for an hour because like I've noticed there's some discourse about what movie was better, The Dark Knight or Brand New Day. And I'm here to tell you, it's not even fucking close. Dark Knight blows it out of the water. But like at the end of The Dark Knight, Batman turns everybody's cell phone into a surveillance camera, and it's treated like a terrible thing to do. It's like, I don't think you should be doing that. Um, and like he deletes it after they use it to catch the Joker. And then in Spider-Man, he's like, "Yeah, I turned all the cameras into surveillance equipment." And then the police chief is like, "Isn't that illegal?" And Spider-Man's like, "LOL." And they just move on. They don't address it at all. No stakes whatsoever. Hated that component of it, to say the least. Yeah, Ali. I know I need TikTok stickers. Justin, you see this? You're giving me shit about TikTok stickers right now. I was just mocking you guys for that not 15 minutes ago. Did Justin tell you that? Because because you deserve it. Um, but yeah, I feel what you're saying there, D. She says The Dark Knight is a great movie, but not a good Batman movie. I feel that. Wow, slanderous behavior. I'm getting there. I was talking about the difference between men and women, and all the men in my life are like, man, Ben, it's really impressive that you've maintained this consistent schedule post firing and that you're taking this so seriously. And then all the women in my life are like, Ben, there's still like 24 things you haven't done yet, and we're wondering when you're going to get to it. And it really is the men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And I need both. I need the pick me ups as well as to get put in my place. So I got everybody doing that in my life. So it all works out. Robert. Yeah. It's 9:07 in the morning, so being set up with a bourbon might be a bit excessive on a Monday, but I feel that. No, I want you to be that bad, Allie. I want you to keep me going. But that was quite the Jedi Council. I'm assuming you're talking about the Hong meeting, and that's actually where I'm starting today. So I had a long day yesterday. I was out for 12 hours. I started making my way down to Milwaukee early Sunday morning. I had a media press pass, excuse me, for the Francesca Hong event. Well, hello, Violet. And spent a couple hours down there, met up with Aaron, the intern, actually, which was very good. And then I came back, didn't even make it back to the apartment, immediately made my way over to Tardigrade's bookshelf in Appleton and immediately started up with the debate down there for District 8, which we'll be talking about that in a little bit as well here. But I'm trying to find a way to edit it. I might do it after I wrap up the show today, but it's pretty cool. It's the first press junket I ever got to take part in. And so I asked a question to what's her face? Francesca Hong, Ilhan Omar, and Hassan Piker. And two of them, Hassan didn't answer, but Elon and Francesca both answered the question. It's pretty cool, but it's part of like a bigger 7-minute video. So I can't really send it in convenient ways. So I'm going to edit the stuff out where I'm actually asking the question. I'll get you guys the answer. But I have to say, I was joking with Justin. I went to a D3 college. It was like a nerd school. They did not take sports particularly seriously at the college that I went to. In fact, it's oftentimes the only thing that I say I regret college-wise is that I didn't go to a school where like I have that moment where like we stormed a basketball court or a football field. We didn't care about any of that. Uh I went to this event yesterday in Milwaukee. I'd say there were close to 1,500 people that were there, and it was more raucous than any sporting event that I went to in college. The energy there was absolutely through the roof, and it was a wild experience. Um, They had a ton of speakers there, like we said, Ilhan Omar, Hassan Piker. They had a couple of different musical artists local to the Milwaukee area who I was not familiar with, but did a fine job. And all in all, I think, and we're going to be jumping into the demographics of why I think this race is all but locked up here. And it kind of ties into my attitude that I always say to you guys that if you show me somebody 45 and under, I'm not saying it's everybody, but 45 and under is has one attitude towards the economy, and um people over 45 have a different attitude towards the economy. And I have the metrics. I see Truck, and we're going to let him make some comments first. And I see Ali asking for the StreamYard link as well. I'm texting it to you now, Ali. Just stand by here. There we go. All right, you have availability there, and I'm just going to post it once. And CKK, I see your comments. I'm going to bring those into the fold as well, but we'll do Trockin first. What's on your mind, Trockin?
I want to chime in a little bit about sports. I am a custodian at Missouri State University. We are sort of a mid-tier Division I university. I have been here 12 years. I make $1.30 above the minimum they pay people day one, and they can't afford to give us raises.
Yeah,
is the narrative. However, the football coach makes $750,000 a year. The same with the basketball coach. And they get paid to lose football games. They literally get paid to lose. I'm not really exaggerating much on that. Maybe a little exaggeration, but because we play schools like Oregon University, huge colleges that are competing for national titles year in, year out. They will pay us over $1 million to play them for one game.
Yeah.
That's how much money there is in sports, but you're being paid to lose. I'm a former college athlete. I played basketball in college. We played at a very small school. When we went to go visit Montana State and play them, they paid us. They paid our athletic department a good sum. And I was kind of wondering, why did the coach take us all out to Olive Garden and pay for all our meals? And I mean, they were just whining and dining us.
Oh, sure. When I was in high school, Truckin', every member of the football team got a PlayStation 2 when, like, the PlayStation 2 was the system. And I wasn't at a small school either. That was like 90 PlayStation 2s going out to high school kids. I played volleyball for 4 years, and when I finished, I got I got like a portable DVD player that was probably $11, and they were like, "Thank you for your service. Godspeed."
$11.
Yeah, you know,
you're the model of corruption. I mean, you really are.
Absolutely.
Totally corrupt.
Yeah, but I feel what you're saying. I've stated for years now, when it comes to conversations about salary caps versus how much these players get paid, because I'm big on, if you're mad about how much the players are getting paid, then stop watching the sport, because that's where the money comes from. But what rubs me the wrong way is the people like you don't get raises, and the customers are getting jerked around on the prices as well. So you've got, they could just lower the prices if they really wanted to. But I mean, I think you bring up a valid point. I don't want to stray too far from the topic today, so I don't want to take it down this route. But I appreciate the call, and I'd like to have a more in-depth conversation about this another time. But I'm totally with you on that. Yeah, what's up?
All the best colleges, the Ivy League colleges, are D3.
Oh.
All of them don't give a single damn sports scholarship. So if you want your college to be good academically, you don't focus on sports.
Yeah, you couldn't get sports scholarships where I went, but I feel that.
rant over.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, good stuff, man. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon. I appreciate it. Baba is hopping on the TikTok chat as well here, and I will be reading YouTube comments, but I want to hear what you have here. What's on your mind, Baba? You're muted. There we go.
My friend, I just want to say that every time I come to your place, I see not only your voice, but also other people that you bring in also make great points. So kudos to you for hosting great
Thank
lives.
you.
I just got back from an international trip that I was all over the place, including Egypt and UK and all that. So I just wanted to say that every time I go around the world and I see how much wealth or lack thereof is and how that is relatively better distributed than the United States, it just begs the question, why do we have so much money, but people are struggling here? And that's really why I think that people are really, I'm so proud of the young people. They're just waking up and they're realizing that there is no shortage of money. There's just shortage of
desire.
I think the problem is the distribution is just abysmal.
Yeah.
We can demand better. And I don't know if you obviously, I'm sure you're watching what's happening, let's say in New York, for example. They're proposing a 10% discount at the checkout if that checkout is automated and use self-service. Those brilliant creative ideas, I think what's going to stick. And it's already happening, and that's what scares the hell out of people, like, let's say, even people who used to be former liberals like Bill Maher. They're now scared, and they're saying they're using communism as the scary tactic, because what it scares. So it turns out that it's not even partisan anymore. It's like people who have a lot of money that don't know what to do with it, that really are scared because they may have to pay a little bit more towards the common good. And that's really what's changing now. It's no longer, the narrative is no longer like left versus right. People are saying like, we're tired of this. We just want.
What's crazy about that, Baba, is you can find a video of Bill Maher from 2014 where he's saying, people out there are misrepresenting socialism as some kind of boogeyman, and I don't think they realize just how popular it is. And now 12 years later, he goes on TV and says, I'm still the same guy I always was. It's the country that's going crazy. Meanwhile, he's doing the very standard talking point that he used to mock 12 years ago, which I find very ironic.
And people aren't buying it. That's the thing. People aren't buying it. Young people are very smart now. And it's not even young people. It's working class. It's like that gentleman you just brought in. Like, he's working hard. He should be compensated way more than, let's say, a football coach or whatever, or a basketball coach, someone who's losing, but it's given like $700,000. So there's no shortage of money. There's no reason that person should be making that much money. They'd be fine to make $200,000. They'd be totally fine to make $100,000 in many cases. But no, we put value in people who already have money. And that probably person is getting a free car at the local Toyota dealer. Or like they do that. Because I used to work at a university and I know exactly what happens. We had all our coaches were just sponsored by the local Honda, local Chevy. They give them free cars, right? Who gets free cars? The person who's whatever, putting food on the table, doing all these things, the farmer. No, nobody gets that. So anyways, kudos to you. I don't want to take too much of your time.
I appreciate it.
I just want to say I listen to what you say, and I'm proud of what you say, and keep up with the good work.
Thank you, Baba. Always appreciate hearing from you, man. You take it easy. Always a pleasure. And the YouTube chat has had some thoughts about it. And I saw CKK, you saying, and my feed are doing the same thing. You said, I made the mistake of opening Facebook yesterday. I was blasted with anti-Fran Hong content, which I have been as well. And to me, I think that shows exactly how nervous the establishment really are with what the campaign is. That's actually the question that I asked. Let me see if hold on, bear with me, because like this thing does sync up with my phone, but you know what? It's not worth trying to figure out now on the fly. I really don't care enough. I'm going to edit it and I'll show it to you. But that's basically the question I asked was, do you notice that the establishment is no longer like kind of scoffing at what's taking place here? And I got a pretty interesting answer from both Fran Hong as well as Ilhan Omar. The CKK went on to say, did you know Fran once went to the doctor because she wasn't feeling well, that her parents were immigrants, and that years ago she said some things on Twitter that didn't age well? Well, you know what's funny, CKK, is she's getting hammered because she has a tweet out there where she's talking about taking her kid to a Culver's somewhere out in a rural area, and she could feel the eyes on her as a Korean family in a predominantly white neighborhood. I was actually just chatting with a minority friend of mine on Thursday about a very similar experience up in Minocqua that he went through, where they went into a restaurant and then the pub owner said, oh, actually, we're doing a private event today. And that the regulars that he went with said they've never seen them close for a private event the entire time they've lived out there. It's because they brought a brown guy. Francesca Hong told a story about that back in 2019, and MAGA has run it up the flagpole, but in only the way that MAGA knows how to do. They can both bitch about constantly being called racist and then immediately call her all of the most racist stuff you've ever seen in your life. And it's like, can you believe that this Asian blah, 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 blah? And it's just like, well, yeah, it's because of comments like this, right? It's because of literally the thing you're doing right there. That's what she's highlighting, is the thing you're doing right now. And just no self-awareness, no irony, no nothing, just jumping right into it. And to me, have you seen the president? Like, we're past that. I don't even get mad when the president says mean things about people I like. So I sure as shit don't care when a candidate that actually means business says something negative about white people. You know what? It was probably founded in some accuracy. I've known some whites in my day. And if that's their game plan, I have a feeling it's not going to go well. Brian says, what was your impression of the debate for governor? I was impressed with Brennan. What's your take on the race now that Barnes is out? I mean, Barnes said as much, right? Like, he basically came out and said, I'm dropping out of the race because we know who's going to win. Now, he didn't say Francesca Hong by name, but I think the implication was kind of there. I'll be honest with you, Brian, I still don't have internet. So, like, I don't know what happened in the debate. I have read some people's thoughts on it. I've talked to people about it in the wild. It doesn't seem like too many minds were changed during the debate, which is oftentimes a big knock against debates, is that oftentimes people have their minds made up. And I'll be talking in a moment about the District 8 debate, and I would argue that was a very similar situation there as well. So I'll be honest with you, man. Brennan might have been impressive. The guy's not going to get 3% of the vote. So, I mean, what he said, it might have been impressive. He might have good ideas. It really just isn't gaining much traction. And that's kind of a good segue to get into the crux of what I wanted to talk about in this first hour today. And I apologize to the TikTok people, but I am also going to read it as well. But I'm going to share my screen here. Regular listeners, especially OG listeners of the show, are familiar that I oftentimes state that the divide specifically within Democratic politics is basically divided by age. And I would tell you guys, if you are under 45 per capita, you're probably struggling with this economy. And if you're over 45 per capita, you're probably okay with it. And by the way, real quick, I see the sports nuts in my YouTube chat there. They're going to have me on their show September 1st, and they're wonderful people. They've been putting up with my lack of internet that I've been dealing with the last 8 days. They have Steven Garcia on Thursday talking about his cancer diagnosis. So if you guys have a chance, look at my YouTube chat. Go ahead and check out they do good work, and they're good people. So go ahead and check that out for them. Looking forward to our chat at the beginning of September. But anyway, so I oftentimes talk about the economy in terms of over 45 and under 45 per capita and what people are struggling with here. Data came out for the governor's race that really highlights the point that I have always been making for you guys. I'm going to add this to my stage now. Let me see. I think I can make it bigger than that. There we go. 18 to 29 is going 66% for Hong. To put that in perspective, second place is Mandela Barnes, because he was still in the race when Marquette polling was doing this. He was in second place at 6%. David Crowley at 4%. Kelder Royce at 3%. Joel Brennan at 0%. Then you go to 30 to 44. And Francesca Hong is at 51%. Second place was Mandela Barnes at 9%. David Crowley's in third at 7%. Joel Brennan at 2%. And in that demo, Kelda has 0. So from 18 to 44, Francesca Hong has about 58% of the votes in this particular subset of polling data. And second place isn't even in double digits. And it's the exact same demographic that I talked to you guys about that are struggling with this economy and have less time for hearing specifically liberals tell you about the importance of maintaining the status quo. And I feel like data like this does a tremendous job of highlighting just how accurate that sentiment is. And for the record, just to bring it full circle, once you get to the 45 to 59, Francesca Hong is still leading at 37%, but Mandela Barnes has 21%. David Crowley has 9%. Then when you get at 60 plus, aka the welfare generation, Francesca Hong is at 14%. She's actually in second place. Mandela is at 24%. So it really is what we've been talking about on this show for basically its entire existence, that there are two different Americas, and what the news media wants you to believe is that the two Americas are what MAGA believes America is and what liberals believe America is. And I'm here to tell you there are two different Americas, but it's based on age. The people that were able to get in to this economy before it boxed people out, and the people that are sitting there being called lazy while they try and figure out how to get into an economy that just doesn't answer for them. What's up, Nataki? But that data to me is so stark and really highlights the generational divide. I got into a very cordial conversation with a gentleman working with the Crossan campaign and is going to be out there at the Crowley event tonight as well, which I will be at the Appleton Beer Factory. It's a reschedule from obviously what was supposed to happen last Monday. I'm going to be there at 5:30 today for those of you that can make it. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. But I was going back and forth with him, about electability and whether or not Francesca Hong's going to do well. And I don't know what this person's lifestyle was. We look like we're about the same age, but statistically speaking, if you're between 18 and 44 years old, there's a 2 in 3 chance that you're probably voting for Francesca Hong. And I see you there, Brian, saying it would seem that the youth will drive the election if they show up to vote, Ben. Bombers vote. And I will say, to a certain extent, you're accurate, but as our mutual friend Clint out in West Virginia used to say, young people's votes don't matter. And I would tell him that young people saved the Democrats in 2020. They saved the Democrats in 22. They saved the Democrats in Wisconsin in 23. And then when the Democrats decided to piss off young people in 24, they got their asses beat. 7 million less people showed up to vote for Kamala Harris between 18 and 29 than did Joe Biden. They didn't go to become Trump voters. Trump picked up 1.2 million young people. They didn't go over there. All they did was not show up. And a similar thing would happen here, but I would argue that the bus is already in motion. There is no stopping this. And I'm watching people show the picture that basically of the press junket that I was at, showing Francesca Hong, Ilhan Omar, and Hassan Piker standing there laughing with one another, saying, Journal Sentinel did a great favor for Tom Tiffany taking this picture. We don't even need to superimpose these people in pictures with Fran. We got this picture right here. Tom Tiffany went on a podcast called The Quartering, where the guy literally wears a t-shirt that says Camp Auschwitz. Like, let's stop pretending like the guy who said 9/11 should be expected is some kind of anti-Semitic crazy person. But then Tom Tiffany can go on the Quartering podcast, and that's just trying to outreach to fringe voters. Fuck out of here with that. Like, no one on this show is falling for that rhetoric, and I would happily suplex anybody that's trying to bring that this way. Ethan says, I think the debates matter more for casual and older voters than the not as informed. I've canvassed, and then that was generally my takeaway. Normie Dems see ads and see debates. That much I can buy into. I believe that. I think it's for the casuals because, again, if you're listening to this show on August 3rd on a Monday morning, you're probably more politically engaged than the average American. I can state that pretty unequivocally. Why am I getting a hashtag mean, Ben? What did I even say? We got a new person here who's interested in sharing their thoughts on the TikTok. And by the way, you can also share these thoughts on YouTube as well. I'm going to reshare the link right now. Anybody who wants to chime in, this will go out on Facebook too. What's on your mind, TikTok?
Hello, bro. Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
I don't really know what this live is about, bro. I just came here. Like, what are we doing here?
Oh, all right. Well, I do political talk radio. I just talk to anybody. Typically, though, people come with what like to comment on shit that I'm talking about. So if you don't have anything, I'm just going to drop you. No worries, but stick around. We do it 9 to 11, Monday through Friday. We just talk about the stories of the day. So I appreciate you chiming in. But yeah, in any event, I'm not going to put a moratorium or do the autopsy just yet on the primary. Obviously, you still need to vote. We still need to do the right things. But it does look like it's pretty cut and dry. And guys, I'm telling you, I will post the videos from the event yesterday. And this is the duopoly in a nutshell. Donald Trump would do those rallies and get hundreds, thousands of people to show up, right? Bernie Sanders would do the same thing. And then Hillary, Joe, Kamala really couldn't pull off the same metrics. And they would try and convince you, well, the enthusiasm at these events doesn't matter. No, it absolutely does. And while I'm not going to lie to you, I don't go to a lot of rallies. Honestly, I think this might have been my first one, and I went as a member of the press. I'm telling you, it was, what's the word I'm looking for here? It was contagious. The energy in that room was absolutely contagious in a way that I'm like, I have a feeling that I know exactly how this is going to go next Tuesday. And the best part is, and God willing, I might try and talk to some people about doing a viewing party for tomorrow. But we're going to get a little bit of a heads up as to what this primary process is going to look like, because Michigan is going to go through the same thing tomorrow. They have their establishment candidate. They have their progressive candidate. And much like in Wisconsin, the polling data says the progressive candidate is probably going to come out on top. And again, when you see the age demographics, it's the same thing with Thomas Massie in the Republican Party. No one under 45 wanted to see Thomas Massie go. And AIPAC and corporations funneled tens of billions of dollars into making sure the boomers, Brian's people, showed up to vote for the less desirable candidate, and it worked. I don't think it's going to work as effectively within the Democratic Party because, as per usual, the liberal side of the equation has a larger contingency of young people affiliated with it. The Trump administration kind of broke free from that a little bit in 2024. I'm here to tell you right now, anybody viewing politics objectively does not think that Donald Trump is here for them. Donald Trump is not solidifying the young vote. The young people are sitting there, and in the 10 o'clock hour, we're going to be getting into the major corporations that are getting massive tariff rebates, while the rest of us pay artificially inflated prices. The prices aren't going to come down, and the companies are making infinity dollars. Young people aren't jumping on board there, but young people will absolutely go and fuck with the Democratic primary. So I have a feeling you're going to see El Sayed come out pretty favorably in Michigan. You're going to see Francesca Hong come out pretty favorably here in Wisconsin. And then the Democratic Party is going to have a real conversation, because you're no longer going to be able to play this might work with Zoran in New York City, but it's not going to work in purple states like Wisconsin and Michigan, because I think we're putting that narrative to bed. It's almost like Outside the Box came out 4 years earlier than this massive progressive movement. It's almost like, and I'm just going to pull this out of nowhere, the plight of the progressive is being right about something years in advance while being constantly told you're wrong, only for it to turn out that you're right much later. And here we are in 2026. I have a good feeling. Guys, Kristen's joking. Carla, Kristen's joking. Kristen, you got to type like LOL JK at the end of it. I know what you're about. Obviously, you've been listening to this show since the beginning. Kristen typed in my TikTok chat, the young people just want everything for free. No one wants to work anymore, because Violated Elf said, I wish I could get paid to watch Ben and just quit my job. I appreciate that. We'll work on a way to make that a job. I feel like we can make that a job. Why are you average when government affects your daily life? I don't know what I said that elicited that reaction. Literally what my boomer dad said on Saturday after he said trickle-down economics works. Well, some people are lost, Kristen, you know. If you still are buying into the idea that it's going to trickle down in 2026, I've got all the bridges to sell you. I'm from the land of the most bridges other than Venice, and you can have all of them at a super cheap price. Fran is going to mop the floor this election. Tom Tiffany represents a long-gone population that has lied to the public about shit that does not matter. I think I agree with that, Brian. My friends on the right will not admit it, but the right message. Their actions have left them high and dry. Oh, absolutely. Susan out in California says, Ben, do you think the Thomas Massey's upcoming chapter, the next chapter, will likely be one of the most highly watched spaces in anti-establishment politics? Probably. I mean, he's going to be fine. It's just a shame that we lost that voice in Congress is all. And it should be a dead giveaway that it takes tens of billions of dollars, foreign country, billion-dollar corporations to even make these candidates relevant. And yet a certain demographic of people continue showing up to vote for these people. I am not saying that Francesca Hong is going to be flawless. And here's what I will say. If she does come out of this race, what I'm looking forward to most about that is holding her accountable for the shit that she campaigned on. Because unlike MAGA, unlike blue MAGA, progressives are not a cult. And when John Fetterman gets the job and then immediately starts sucking, we do not pretend that he is good. When Graham Plattner gets hit with a scandal that is irrefutable, progressives call for him to step down. Ken Paxton is still running in Texas despite his allegations, and the same jagoffs in MAGA who were calling Graham Plattner all these names are saying, well, when it comes to Ken Paxton, it's just accusations. We're not a cult. We don't defend Andrew Cuomo. We do not defend Donald Trump. We do not defend our sex pests. We do not defend our people that sell us out to corporations. If Francesca Hong comes away with it, that's when the fun really starts, because then you can hold the person to account for the things that they said that they were going to do. So, Thomas Massie, I'm going to see what ends up happening with him, because needless to say, he and I disagree quite a bit on the culture wars issues. And I find it ironic as a libertarian that he's not more live and let live. I've always described myself as a social libertarian, fiscal progressive. Everyone's like, I'm a social democrat, but a fiscal conservative. That all is bullshit. I'm a social libertarian and a fiscal progressive is what I am. That's the ideal mishmash that you should be. I'm libertarian in the sense that everybody should be allowed to do what they want. I'm progressive in the sense of tax the fucking rich. And I feel like that's a pretty straightforward ask for a lot of people. And welcome. I see the numbers climbing a little bit in YouTube here. If you're new to the program, please subscribe to the channel. We're growing more every single day. And by the way, yesterday, I'm going to repost it onto my Facebook page this morning. I am one of the exclusive sources for the District 8 debate that took place at Tardigrades yesterday. It's available on the Ben Comino's YouTube page. All you got to do is search my name. It's the most recent video other than the one you're watching right now. So if you live in District 8 and you want to learn about Katrina DeVille, Rick Cross, and Mark Scheffler, and Mark Scheffler will be on my show Wednesday. We're going to get Rick and Katrina on as well. But the debate itself is available on my YouTube page if you'd like to check it out and subscribe to that there. But this race feels all but dead in the water at this point here, guys. And I got to say, it's the candidate that I wanted to see. From a personal standpoint, everybody obviously always has the freedom to do what they want. And I still do intend to get David Crowley on this show. And honestly, probably Fran Hong one more time, because she hasn't done Outside the Box Unfiltered. She did it when I was working at that shitty little radio group. But so I'll keep you guys posted there. I'm going to check my Facebook comments here really quickly just to pay that a little bit of love before we move forward here. Bang. All right. Yeah, it's from Ben just simply saying that's insane. I feel that. Hal says Bill Maher also threatening to leave if Hassan Piker takes over. Let him have him. Juba, welcome back. James Clyburn came out for the APEC candidate just like he opposed Sanders. That won't work again. I agree. Kathleen says Bill Maher is a whack job. I'm down to just shit on Bill Maher for the next hour and 20 minutes if you guys would rather just do that. You know what's so sad about that? Is he's one of the voices that got me interested in politics. And now he's just a piece of shit. And like it came out of nowhere, and he's trying to make it seem like I'm the reason he's not a Democrat anymore. Sucks. Wait, Tom Tiffany has a Minnesota resident asking about fraud in his ads, and it kills me every time. That's hilarious. I mean, I don't understand what the Republican strategy is. You're going to run on waste, fraud, and abuse with this dickhead in the White House. You're going to run on extremism when we got ICE running around shooting people in the head. Oh, abolish ICE is an extremist position. No, calling people ICE murderers domestic terrorists is an extremist position. At least in this guy's humble opinion. But so we'll see. Like I said, I'm going to go to the event today. And while obviously it's not going to compare to a Milwaukee event, I was at the Francesca Hong Beer Factory event in Appleton just for like 20 minutes because I had to go and speak at a green convention thing down in Milwaukee last Sunday. But I at least know enough to be able to comment on the similarities and differences. Needless to say, it's not going to be apples to apples because we're only 8 days removed, but we're still dealing with the aftermath of a tornado that has left quite a bit of people in a world of hurt locally. So If Mile of Music is any indicator, I have a feeling it's going to be lesser attended just based on who can actually make it. But then on top of that, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that David Crowley elicits the same kind of excitement that Francesca Hong does, because he simply just doesn't. I'm telling you, when the videos go up, you'll see what I'm talking about. It was absolutely wild. I see Robin saying on my TikTok, I am just sick of this fraudulent voter shit. Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm done. Like, I never pretended like it was real. But I'm sick and tired of even giving it air, to be frank, because it's just something that morons believe at this point. Paul's asking, explain open borders and progressive policy, or is that not allowed to be discussed too? Paul, I guess I would ask you, so here's my attitude towards it. I believe borders are made up. I think they are arbitrary lines drawn to give definition to cities, states, countries, etc. And not only is this my belief, but something tells me, based on the fact that you use the phrase open borders, your dad, President Donald Trump, also said something very similar about why he wants to take Canada and make it the 51st state. He said borders are made up. We can really draw them wherever we want to. For the record, I recognize that my stance on borders is extreme, and I expect to compromise with people on that. I think having a secure border is fine, but what I will tell you is this. I'm about to leave my apartment complex this month. I've lived there for the better part of 4 years. The first 2 years that I was there, I was surrounded by immigrants. And I had a theory that some of them snuck across the border, but I never asked, didn't care. You know what they like to do? Drink after a hard day's work in the parking lot and grilled chicken every single day. And you know what I like? Grilled chicken and drinking. So I would go and hang out with them every single time. And they were very fun people. And then on January of 2025, I came home from work, and not only was there no barbecue, but there were no cars. They all left. They were all nervous about whatever was coming. And something tells me, based on the way that you wrote that answer, that that might have got you a little sexually aroused hearing that sentence. And I understand that. But here's the deal. I felt infinitely safe surrounded by those probably undocumented immigrants. And I feel nothing but violence emanating off of the masked virgin army that you love so much, known as ICE. And so the idea that what progressives represent is some kind of extremist thing in terms of borders, I just don't buy. And I'd be hard-pressed to be convinced otherwise. We're getting a commenter here on TikTok that I'm more than happy to bring up. Let's see what we're dealing with. Hello, you're on Outside the Box.
How are you, man?
All right, what's on your mind?
Do you think that the United States has the right to control who comes in and out of the country?
Yeah.
Okay. So what exactly is the issue?
I think it's the what my issue is when people say that every Democrat is in favor of open borders. It's kind of like how Project 2025 came out and the Trump administration was just able to say, oh, that doesn't apply to what I think. But then the DSA has some far left attitude towards immigration, not backed up in any fact, because something tells me, just based on the way you're carrying yourself, you sound like you're roughly my age. You know that Obama deported more people than Donald Trump. You know that Joe Biden deported plenty of people. Not to say that it was perfect or that it was good, but that those things happened. And the idea that Francesca Hong is somehow going to lead. I'm doing this political talk show in Wisconsin, so it's from the perspective of the the self-described Democratic Socialist candidate running for governor in my state. The idea that she is somehow for open borders and not some kind of basic common sense policy to allow for immigration, I think is a straw man argument. So I guess that's my frustration with the claims about open borders.
Okay. So as far as the Obama era deportations and the Biden era deportations, I think it's also important to remember a couple of things. So for one, the border crossing numbers under the current administration have fallen dramatically compared to the previous administration. We would agree on that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, but then we also have to look at how the term deportation was redefined under Obama's terms. Do we remember that?
Hit me with it.
So essentially, if someone was turned away at the border, or turned around at the border, that was classified as a deportation. And I might be butchering this a little bit, but
sure.
I only have the one device. I can't go back and forth to bring up exactly how the term was redefined. But so when we're looking at the deportation under Obama's term compared with what the Trump administration is doing now, there's not an opportunity to kind of boost your numbers by turning people away at the border. These are happening these are interior removals, right? And the same thing under the Biden administration, where it was after Title whatever it was ended, that they had to
22 or whatever it was. Yeah,
whatever it was. Whereas, again, if you look at the number of interior removals under either Obama or Biden's administration, they weren't, like Hall of Fame numbers, you know what I mean? Kind of the way that they're portrayed today. So I think that a lot of times when people compare deportation numbers between these three administrations, they're kind of going apples to oranges. Does that make sense?
let me ask you this, because I can tell you're coming at this in good faith, and I appreciate this, and that's what this show's all about. So what are your thoughts on this? And we'll end the conversation here. I've oftentimes stipulated that if I were the dictator of America, how I would address the American immigration issue is I would legislate against businesses. I would create a financial penalty for any major corporation that is caught paying an undocumented immigrant less than they are paying an American citizen. Because the fact of the matter is, both Democrats and Republicans do not want to address the main issue. And as a progressive, I'll be the first one to tell you, when undocumented immigrants come into America, they work for less wages, and it is one of the 15 different ways in which our economy artificially suppresses wages for work that deserves to make more money. Because when you have an immigrant showing up and saying, I'll do it for 38 grand, it's hard to say, yo, this job's worth at least 50 when you got people willing to do it for 38 and a system that allows for that. If we're serious about doing something about this, pass a law that says if you're caught underpaying these people relative to what you pay Americans, you're going to give us 2% of your gross profit for every instance we find you breaking this rule. They'll stop hiring undocumented immigrants, and then let's see where the thrust is for people to cross our border anymore. Does that feel like a reasonable compromise to address it in a way that isn't necessarily as, because you got the bleeding hearts on the left, right? That no American foreign policy is responsible for a lot of the refugees that find themselves crossing our borders illegally. And you can't have this conversation without acknowledging that that part of it is true. But there's also a major element of corporate greed and big-time corporations exploiting that bleeding heart nature and allowing the left and right to fight amongst themselves about what the appropriate number is while they continue using it to pad the bottom line. Is what I'm saying making sense to you?
Yeah, what you say makes sense, but I have a slight disagreement. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that there are penalties now for employing illegal immigrants. Are there not? Not
that I'm aware. Like, I've never heard of a business being hammered, because we know it's happening. And realistically, in Wisconsin, major agriculture sector up here, our politicians straight up say, we need these immigrants back so we can underpay them, because that's the only way this economy works. So, like,
so I I guess my disagreement would, and I believe that there are penalties for businesses for hiring illegal immigrants, but I don't think that the answer is just pay them the same as citizens. I don't think that's going to do anything.
You really think a business would pay the same number to somebody that doesn't understand the language? They'd be willing to put up with the language barrier if they weren't saving any money. I just don't buy that. I know corporations. They wouldn't do. They wouldn't do that. They'd be like, okay, shit, I'll just hire the white guy.
Could I just finish?
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Do your thing. Yeah, do your thing.
So again, I don't think that the answer is to just pay illegal immigrants the same rate as citizens. I don't really think that that's going to be a big, disincentive for people to cross the border. I do think that those companies should definitely be penalized, but there seems to be and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've just heard you talk about big corporations and big businesses employing these illegal immigrants. But I mean, this is absolutely small businesses, small farms. My degree is in agriculture. I live in an agricultural area, but I work in construction. So, I've seen what it's done to labor wage here in this market. And in the other markets that I've worked in this industry. But it's, again, you're much less likely to run into a big construction company like that does work out of state, does federal and state jobs. You're much less likely to find them employing illegal immigrants than you are just kind of the chuck in a truck that comes by and does handyman work type of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I feel that, and our economy is a house of cards in a lot of ways. It's been allowed, in my opinion. I know you're new here, but it's my main thrust of my show is a lot of people are kind of waking up to 50 years of inactivity economically, and we find ourselves a bit hamstrung in a lot of ways. What you just highlighted there, notwithstanding. But hey, we can agree to disagree on this. I still maintain that if you required equal pay, it wouldn't discourage immigrants from trying to cross, but I believe it would discourage employers from trying to hire, and that's the whole reason that they're coming over to begin with. So that's at least my. Well, I got to keep the show rolling here, dude.
I just wanted to add one thing.
Quickly.
Basically, what you're dealing with, though, is you're trying to deal with the consequence after they've come into the country. Whereas my opinion is I would be a lot more worried about not letting them into the country to begin with, and the ones that are here, getting them out, and that problem takes care of itself.
But then if we're talking about root causes of problems, then mark my words, when there's a Democratic president in 2028, because this guy's kind of failing by most metrics, there's going to be a Venezuelan refugee crisis. There's going to be an Ecuadorian refugee crisis. And it's going to be because we're bombing the shit out of them. And so
how does that make that our problem here domestically?
We're bombing them. We're blowing them up in boats. And then they're coming here because we are the Statue of Liberty country. And so I would argue maybe stop blowing up their boats. Maybe stop bombing them because you want access to their minerals. We are paying for the consequences of our actions. And again, the consequences are in the name of benefiting a handful of corporations in the Defense Department and in the tech sector. And then they have people wired like yourself who get mad at the people who leave a country. Do you realize since Obama in 2008, there's been 1 year where we have not bombed Somalia? And the only thing you hear half this country bitch about is that Somali people are here. Yet we bomb them every single year. We are creating a hellscape in Somalia. Of course they're going to run away. And
do you think that if it weren't for the bombs dropping in Somalia, that they would just be living in this, peaceful society?
It would be on them for self-determination.
Be trying to immigrate to the United States, like everything. If it weren't for the bombs, I would still be in Somalia.
I think it would be tremendously reduced. I don't think anything would ever be an absolute zero, but I think it would be tremendously reduced. We bomb the shit out of everything. I'm 38 years old. In my 38 years,
how many countries they pass through in order to get to the United States. So, okay, so think about this. We're having a ton of problems getting bombed by Tennessee here in Florida. Okay. And so my idea is I'm going to pass through Georgia and Alabama to get to Tennessee because that's the place to go, the place that's dropping all the bombs on us. Right. Doesn't that seem silly to you?
Because we accept it, and we accept it because we're looking for employees to work at shorter wages. We bomb Haiti.
That seems silly to you for a Floridian to go, I need to get out of Florida because Tennessee's dropping all these bombs on us. So let's go to Tennessee.
Not if the people in Georgia, not if the people in Georgia would be willing to take the life of a person in Florida. And like, quite frankly, if we break your shit, we bought it. Like, we cannot be this world power taking everyone's resources. The reason a lot of third world countries even exist is because we exploit other countries because we don't have healthcare. We have bombs. We don't have free college. We have bombs.
Exist because third world people create third world. The third world is not a place on a map.
See, now you're just being ignorant. This was a good talk for a while, but I'm going to keep it rolling here. But I think that's absolutely asinine. The idea that we're not pillaging countries left, right, and center is such a clueless attitude that I don't know how to do it. And my friend from Ecuador is calling in. We'll give him some time. I do want to get back on track here. A lot of people say an L for that guest. I would agree. But Quito, what's on your mind, man?
Hi, Ben. How are you doing today?
Hanging in. How about yourself?
I'm... I just wanted to say I completely agree with you. And what bothers me most is I feel like we as a country have decided that we would rather be sitting around, talk about the problems, because this is what they do. They sit around, they talk about the problems. They don't go, hey, let's make a list of concrete steps that we can take to get this done today. And there are steps. Like, I understand that there are, barriers that, slow progress down. But at the same time, sometimes you have to do the unconventional in order to get the ball rolling. And our politicians, all they do is sit around, they go, well, we can't do this, we can't do that. Yes, you can. You just don't want to do that.
Right. Well, and also the previous caller, like, he started off very level-headed, but I think fundamentally his main gripe is the lack of whiteness of the people coming over here, because I presented 3 different avenues upon which I'm willing to reach across the aisle and be like, look, as a leftist, I'm anti-wage suppression. We need to calm down on our foreign intervention. There's all these different elements that we do that creates refugees. And I know inevitably that caller is going to be pissed as fuck when there's a Democrat in office and a bunch of Venezuelans cross our border, because we're creating a hellscape in their country. We're overthrowing leaders. We're doing all of these things, and then we're upset when people end up coming here. And it just doesn't make any sense to me that if you want to talk about root causes and then ignore root causes, it's just hard to take you seriously at that point.
Exactly. And that guy, because I was listening to everything he was saying, and I personally, to me, that guy is a fool. He's nothing more than Trump mushroom gobbler. He's no better than all the other clowns who come before him. And this is Trump's base. It's a bunch of uneducated fools who don't have an IQ over 20. And this is, unfortunately, what we're dealing with. And we have to do this together as a country. For those of us who want to have solutions and fix this, we have to do it together, because that's the only way this will work. And like you said, MAGA's going to be mad when we start solving the problems when there's a Democrat in office, because they don't like that. It offends their ego. They can't figure things out. They don't know what they're doing, and they're going to lose. Plain and simple.
100%. Hey, I appreciate the call, man. Good hearing from you.
Awesome. Same here. Thank you.
Yeah. And Quito is calling from Ecuador, and Ecuador found a massive minefield of minerals necessary to make semiconductors, the chips necessary for AI. Notice, Ali, how I didn't say semiconductor chips. F off. but to make semiconductors. And then we started bombing them. Ukraine has shit tons, hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars in the same kind of minerals in the Donbass region, which is why there's a war between Russia and Ukraine right now. We're taking this shit from all these places when in reality they could sell this shit to us. Apple would have to make less money, which would have made my previous caller very mad. But instead, we'd rather bomb the shit out of them, take them, and bank on racists to believe that other countries can't figure out how to do economics because they're just not white enough. By the way, Floyd typed a message into my YouTube chat that says "Inside the Box with Karl Marx," so I posted it to the video feed there because you know, I have a problem. But so anywho, that call was pretty random, huh? Bit of a not a waste of time because it does highlight things. It highlights how confused people are. Oh, that was a good accent. Which one? I don't even remember what I did. Did I go what? I don't even remember what I said. They socialize the cost of sourcing via foreign policy, end of a barrel. No, exactly. Exactly. Hell, Iran discovered a lithium field or a lithium mine that was so large that it accounts for 10% of the world's supply of lithium. They found it in March of 25. We began bombing them in June of 25. Ben Commie Toast. Huh? Floyd, you're getting pretty good. Why don't you, hey, Floyd, put your money where your mouth is. Defend your talking points. There's the link. Put your money where your mouth is and let me know. Let me know where my commie roots are. Because last I checked, I'm a landlord. I own property and charge other people for living on it. Right? I make money for this lovely program that I put together for everybody. People big fans of Commie Toast on TikTok. That's nice. But so in any event, let's look at this disparity, shall we? And again, I'm going to read this for the people that can't see it on the screen. It's going to go up on the Tube of You and the Book of Faces, which I'm sure you're all subscribed to. Apple has received $2.2 billion tariff refund check. Amazon has received $600 million. Walmart, $10 billion. Target, $2 billion. Costco, $2 billion. Nike, $1 billion. Home Depot, $2 billion. As you can see, what we're dealing with here in the Trump administration is yet another massive transfer of wealth. So let's look at this. And again, Tom Tiffany voted for all of this, but remember, Francesca Hong's the extremist who doesn't understand how the economy works. Tom Tiffany is responsible for cutting the taxes of every single one of those major corporations that I just read their name off to you. And then not only did they cut their taxes, they are now receiving massive rebate checks. And not only are they receiving massive rebate checks, but they also jacked their prices up with intention of being tariffed more so that their profits wouldn't have been impacted to begin with. So they jacked their prices up organically. Then they jacked their prices up as a result of the tariffs, and then they ended up taking home a larger portion of the pie because their taxes were cut. And as I've kind of been reading to you guys throughout last week and the week prior, all of these companies, Google brought in $160 billion in profit and laid off a couple thousand people. Apple did the same thing. I had a half a dozen different companies last week that I was highlighting the tens of billions of dollars in profit / net revenue that they were taking in only to turn around and fire people. Meanwhile, you have an entire political movement based on the idea that cutting these people's taxes and increasing tariffs on them is somehow going to bring business back to America and make life more affordable. Those guys are being made whole, even though they didn't need to be made whole because they already were raising their prices anyway. And we are sitting here footing the bill still in August of 2026. And the same people that wouldn't shut the fuck up about Joe Biden trying to get us out of a pandemic seem eerily quiet about what's going on now. And our one friend on TikTok is just super mad about them damn Mexicans. Interesting how that works, is it not? When the debate is lost, slander becomes the tool of the loser, says Justin. I agree. That's aimed at you, Floyd. Seems like a lot of people are mad about the tariff thing there. Yeah, me too. Yeah. FYI, Howard Lutnick is profiting from those refunds. I believe it. I believe the entire administration is profiting from it. Again, there's not a lot that you can do about it, but on the bright side, anytime MAGA has anything to say about corruption or fraud again, you can just look at him and say, hey, Floyd, shut the fuck up, and then just move on, because you know that they shouldn't be taken seriously. Mad about SNAP benefits, but so what about tariff rebates? Yeah. He purchased the processing and solution, he and his son. Then they influenced signing and usage. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, and again, just to be clear, the entire time Joe Biden was in office, he was saying Bidenomics were working. Anybody who was upset about the economy was called secretly MAGA, present company included. Anytime somebody talked about corporate greed, they were called conspiracy theorists, present company included. And MAGA was more than happy to blame Democratic policies for the cost of living while ignoring the record profits that they were raking in every single year. And now you flash forward to now, they're still raking in those record profits. Democrats are more than happy to exclusively blame the tariffs and the war. Meanwhile, they are still making countless funds, countless profits, all just by being able to charge more due to a lack of competition in this country that has been allowed to persist for the better part of 50 years. And as I often state, when's the last time, other than the usual suspects, other than actual leftists, when do you hear people talk about corporations jacking up prices artificially? Have you heard a single politician in general talk about these tariff rebates, not from an anti-Trump perspective, which he deserves 100% of the blame for this? But when have you heard a single politician talk to you about the fact that companies raise their prices in anticipation of the tariffs? Now the tariffs have been deemed illegal, and let me guess, those prices aren't going to come down. It's probably going to take me too long to find on a whim right now. But if you look at the trajectory of grocery prices since 2019, never mind, I'm very good at the job. I always forget that. If you look at the trajectory, and I'm actually going to allow you guys to see this here. Let me flip my camera and I'll just kind of put it up on the thing here. But when you look at this chart here, you can see during the Biden years, during a pandemic, there was a massive spike in what was going on there, right? And then the food prices settled there in 2023, and we have been in gradual increase. Now, don't get me wrong, in the Trump years, which as you can see at the tail end of it right there, you can see it on the chart there, it is the worst under the Trump administration. It has not gotten better as a result of Donald Trump, tariffs, his policies, or anything like that. The massive spike happened in 2022 for COVID for valid reasons, and we have not pretended like something different has happened. We're pretending like, oh yeah, COVID happened and then we got out of it and Biden got rid of inflation. No, the prices are 30% higher than they were in 2012. Just in 2022, now we're at 40% higher. And then when young people show up and say this cost of living has run amok, they are told that they are lazy and don't want to work anymore. And yes, the recent decrease, at least Donald Trump inherited an economy that was trending in the right direction that he fucked up. Joe Biden had to get us out of a pandemic, and I don't think he cracked down enough on the high earners. Like, I have issues with what he did, but he inherited a shitty situation with COVID, coming out of lockdowns, trying to restart an economy. Here's a fun fact. I used to say it all the time. In 2023, inflation in America was trending better here than it was in any other industrialized nation. It wasn't going nearly far enough. And again, corporations were still gouging us. So it didn't feel like we were getting out of an inflationary period, but it was trending in a better direction than anywhere else. We are now the worst trending in inflation in regards to other industrialized nation, and it is all brought about from this dumbass president's decisions. I see Farm Lady simply saying, liar, show your work, waka waka MAGA. That's at least my opinion on the matter. Welcome to the MAGA tariff policy. Yeah, Howard's kids make bank off tariff reimbursements. Floyd called us the island of misfit toys. Yeah, it doesn't bother us at all. You're listening. You're here, Floyd. Waka waka. Tariffs were used for leverage for peace and massive investment in the U.S. Oh, so you just gargle that shit all the way down, huh? I mean, that's a choice. I choose not to be a cultist on either side. I think blue MAGA and MAGA leave a lot to be desired. Because I don't know, man. I know we weren't embroiled in a pointless war on the behest of the Middle East when there weren't tariffs, right? I remember those days. But what do I know? Look up oil company profits over the last year, double, triple, quadruple of last year. Yeah, I believe it. I haven't seen the numbers, but I don't doubt it at all. I don't doubt that one bit. Ethan says, bro, how much peace have they attained? Exactly, man. It's like they just say shit. Because I truly, like, now that we're 2 years into this, like, MAGA really is a cult. There are MAGAs out there that still think that Olympic swimmer or canoeist or whatever the fuck he is still did the pull, even though the reporting shows, yeah, Trump made the shit up. It is a physical impossibility for there to be no video evidence of these people going into the center of the pool and doing the things that they were alleged to do. And the Floyds of the world are still out there saying, yeah, I mean, they saw, there's video evidence. We saw him do it. We know that he did these things. There's a level of stupidity in some of the population that, like, you do have to eventually cut ties. I don't remember which of the candidates said it yesterday, but he was talking about, or they were talking about their intention to reach independent and moderate voters as a Democrat. He goes, and then there's the insurrectionists, the Floyds of the world, and they can just go ahead and vote for their little fascism. And like, I'm reaching out to the rest. Now, how large is that demographic? I think that's another conversation entirely. But there comes a time when you just have to punt on some of these guys because there's a level of stupidity. You wouldn't think it, because this show is very much based on helping out the underprivileged. And with underprivileged, oftentimes does come a lack of education. It's just simply as that matter. If you're more educated, you're harder to exploit. And I do have a bit of a bleeding heart towards helping individuals, but I also don't suffer idiocy. And if you hit a level of of moronic thought, like championing the peace brought about by this administration, you're just too lost. Like, it's not even worth debating anymore at that point, because clearly you don't even understand how words work. which is disappointing that you've made it this far in life. Mary says they aren't lowering prices. I asked my manager at the store I work at if they will be lowering prices, and it was a no. They raised their prices before the tariffs went into effect. Back when they first raised the prices, they said they would revisit in 6 months to see what their competitors are doing. You know, boomers, when they were our age, younger people's age, the mega corporations were taxed between 70 and 91%. So when they decided they would raise their prices, they would be taxed into infinity on those prices, and the money would find its way back into the system. Tom Tiffany and the Republican Party have cut those taxes, and it looks as though they're not trickling down. Phil and Oshkosh saying, look up oil subsidies every year. Oh, I believe you me. I don't know the numbers, but I've seen them. Jarmani says, and how much investment have we actually seen? I haven't seen the exact metrics, but it surely doesn't feel like a lot, does it? Ethan says the truly shitty thing is that the tariffs are a totally legitimate policy that should be deployed by someone that's not a moron. I agree. That's what sucks, Ethan, is I agree. I'm pretty sure you were listening to this show in election year, and I am pro-tariff. I'm not pro-moron, and so I'm anti the way that Donald Trump is doing it, but I am pro-tariff in ways that it makes sense. Oh, fret not. Floyd worked in economic development, so we got good things going here. Because, so Violet's asking why I'm pro-tariff. So I do believe globalization has impacted the Midwest in a way that has chased them away from the Democratic Party wholeheartedly. It all, one hand washes the other, right? The concept of intersectionality sometimes causes people's eyes to gloss over, but it is real. For 45 years, we have really not seen wage increases relative to the ways wages increased prior to Reagan. Everybody is very aware of that situation now, depending on who the president is. Floyd would be livid about the economy if Kamala Harris were president right now, but his dad is president, so he's right there sitting down. Pat me on the head, Daddy. Tell me I'm a good voter. Championing this economy. The reason why they were able to get away with the stagnant wages for as long as they did is because we shipped this stuff overseas, making it cheaper for them to make. And then, as I stated with the racist caller from before, it's a house of cards that it's very difficult to deal with. Our farming industry only still exists if you can pay undocumented immigrants slave wages, because farming has become so unworkable at this point in terms of being a business that it is no longer relevant for people to try and engage in that. Our tech sector, people would not be able to afford TVs and new video game systems and surround sound and all this stuff if it weren't getting made by sweatshops and other nations that don't have as many worker restrictions as us. So then it comes back to the idea of how do we start making it again in America after ignoring the fact that we were offshoring it for the better part of the last half a century. And the only way that we would be able to do that is with tariffs. The only way to control that, it's kind of like how AOC started a clothing company, and then people saw how much the clothes cost, and they were called tax the rich clothing. Everyone's like, you have to be rich to be able to afford this. Well, no, it's what it costs when you actually pay people more than 13 cents to make a sweatshirt. And if I'm opening a clothing store and selling stuff with American wages, and I'm competing against Chinese sweatshops, I'm going to lose every time. Not even because people want to support the sweatshops, but because so many people are living paycheck to paycheck that if the choices are drop $35 on a sweatshirt or drop $90 on a sweatshirt, guess which one of those two they're ultimately going to end up picking? Don't get me wrong, I'm down to scrap the whole economy entirely and just start working on basic necessity, but we're not there yet. We need a means to be able to make things happen. So fine, let's operate within this system. In order for us to be able to compete again, there have to be tariffs. That's why when Biden was in office and they would start implementing tariffs on solar panels coming from China, it would piss me off because I was like, well, wait a minute. Is climate change an existential threat, or are Democrats just trying to monetize it? Because I was told we have to do everything we can to stop climate change now, and we are currently in the middle of tariffing Chinese solar panels because they're selling them so cheap that American companies can't compete. Now, if it is something like a nice sweatshirt, I'm fine to tariff it and make it so that Americans can compete. If it is the technology necessary to push back against the alleged existential threat of a generation, maybe we should be trying to mass produce it for as cheap as fucking possible and try and get that into the hands of everybody that can possibly get it. Meanwhile, Democrats slap that with a 300% tariff. And it makes me question how much they actually believe in climate change themselves. So that's like the short answer of how I feel about it. Where are we here? Sorry, I jumped. Brian says, imagine that's going to be spent in advertising against the Democratic candidate for governor, especially if Fran is the candidate. Thank goodness you're off the radio. Yeah, exactly. Although shit, I'll let them buy ads on this. You kidding me? Tariffs are legit when you need to protect your domestic industry to protect yourself and your workforce. Obviously, military supplies a la chips, but where they could be awesome is localizing stuff like growing food and consuming it locally or making PPE for a pandemic. Exactly. CKK says we shouldn't be buying anything from China. Absolutely. But like CKK, that's like the equivalent of saying we shouldn't be buying anything from a mega corporation. No, we shouldn't. But you know what? It's cheaper. And so many people are paycheck to paycheck that the principle doesn't matter, right? The principle of, oh, you should be buying American to support American. Well, no, I'm lucky I can buy it all, is the attitude from a lot of people. Again, never have bought anything off of Amazon in my life. In my fucking life. Never have bought something off of Amazon. I don't judge people that do. I know it's way cheaper. I know it's way easier. You just type the thing in that you want. There it is on the screen. You click it and it comes within 24 hours. I get why people do it. I'm just a bit of a badass that way. But you know what? I'm sure I have plenty of Chinese shit. I'm willing to bet this shirt, my Jesus Loves You shirt, is probably Chinese. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to read that now. By the way, it doesn't end at Jesus Loves You. Someone should let Floyd know that I am his favorite. Just an FYI. Heels says that's an amazingly amazing, impressive flex. Yeah, I appreciate that. I run in a lot of progressive groups, and that tends to. It didn't start off as a statement. It just started off as like, I think you guys think I'm lying when I say it. I'm not a consumer. Like, other than like art, like I consume movies, I consume music, but I really don't buy a lot of things. I never have. And I'd always be sitting there and like, granted, I restarted my career at the end of my 20s and I was making shit for pay. And like my tenants who lived in the unit above me, there would be Amazon boxes on our porch 3 times a week. I'm like, how the fuck Do you guys need something from Amazon this many times a week? Never understood it. Susan says, Ben, just read this podcast reach is growing fast and currently reaches 53 to 55% of the U.S. population. Numbers expected to increase. Wonderful. Well, thanks for hanging out for a half hour, Floyd. I recognize I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. Even when you disagree with me, I'm pretty good at the job. Yeah, I see a lot of people justifying their cause for Amazon, and you're all worse than me. T. Jennings says, God damn, not one time? Holy shit, your ethics. Wow, that's impressive. Like, I don't order from Shine, and I think that's a flex. Holy shit, dude. Yeah, I feel that. The story I always tell, I had an intern who I'd always reference the movie Fight Club to, and then when her summer was over, I would I was like, I'm gonna go find a DVD copy of Fight Club and I'm gonna give it to her. You know how hard it was to find a movie from 1999 without using Amazon? It was incredibly hard. I had to go to 5 different places, but I found it. It's hard to get everything in stores now. I agree. Had to buy a phone case recently. I could spend $40 at Verizon or $5 on Amazon. Well, now we know Violet's morals are worth $35, you know? So, yeah, to each their own. And again, it didn't start off as this thing, but like now that I'm here, like it got to the point where I bought all my production equipment, and my friend who was helping me buy it, he's like, yeah, just go on Amazon and do X, Y, and Z. I was like, dude, can you order it and I'll just pay you because I don't want to give Amazon any money. He goes, let's just go to Sweetwater. I'm like, oh, perfect. And so I just went to a whole other company and I avoided Amazon altogether. I know, Violet. I'm jerking you around. I can't help myself. Amazon is the gateway drug to all of dumb spending, like Uber Eats. Maybe, you know what's funny? I've never used Uber Eats. I barely even order deliver. I just go get my shit. Don't punch a giraffe. I have been Buy American before. It was cool. This is Jeff. I was fortunate to belong to a union and could afford U.S. products. Unfortunately, some things are not made here. Exactly. I'm right there with you. And again, that's I don't look where anything is made. And I should be better at that element of things, but I'm not. Brian says, Floyd, we all here have had to listen to content we didn't agree with. For me, bashing boomers and rural residents. But the difference is we are here to discuss and grow. Growing is hard. I agree. And I'm 6'4". I'm like the best at it. You guys hear that? I feel like I'm at 8 Mile. So debate talk tomorrow. I can talk a little bit about it today. But like realistically, there's like it's not a lot of content. I can try and chop it up a little bit here, but I don't think anybody will be surprised. And again, for those of you that weren't listening in the 9 o'clock hour, would you send me late? I can't tell what that is, Jay. Oh, it's a train. The debate is available in its entirety on my YouTube page, which you should all go and subscribe to right now. We're almost at 800 subscribers, so that'd be really great to get to today. That would be fun. But I really wasn't blown away by any of the answers. I kind of went in knowing who I was going to vote for, and I'm speaking to all 3 candidates this week, so I'm going to keep that to myself for right now. But I wasn't particularly caught off guard by anything that I heard yesterday. I thought it was respectful. I thought, it goes to show you. Violet had brought up, you don't know how much food comes from from our allies in the Middle East. I asked the yes or no questions at the beginning of the debate, and there were probably 4 questions surrounding aid to our allies in the Middle East, both of a military variety as well as a humanitarian variety. And it is quite jarring because Northeast Wisconsin is not leftist, although I'd argue, given I was the #1 rated talk show in the market, maybe they just don't realize how leftist they really are. But we're by no means a progressive bastion, and nobody had any love loss whatsoever. There's a viral clip going around in mainstream media of Hassan Piker being interviewed, and he's asked essentially a question about what the future of Democratic Party politics looks like, and he says there will not be another Democratic president at the top of the ticket who is still currently expressing support for what is happening in the Middle East. And I'd argue, if you're looking for my biggest takeaway from the District 8 debate, available at the Ben Comino's YouTube page, it would be exactly how toxic that has become in the conversation. I will say there was one moment, and I want to get back to what Jar Manny was saying before. I saw she was talking about the debate at a time when I wasn't. How far back was that? Yeah, there it is. It got a little heated between Rick Crossan and Mark Scheffler. Katrina DeVille kind of just taking a step back and allowing the barbs to be thrown. I was in the back buying a THC drink, unfortunately, and I missed that whole part and didn't have time to rewatch it yesterday evening, so I'm going to have to catch that myself. It's after the intermission. But apparently shit got kind of heated towards the end, and I am pissed that I missed that. But yeah, all in all, I don't know that minds were changed if you went in with a mind made up. And if you went in as a blank slate, I think you probably heard stuff that you liked from every candidate. Gut shot reaction, I think Mark Scheffler had the most polished answers. I think Rick Crossan sounded the most real in his answers. And Katrina relied very much on personal anecdote and like her own lived experience as for why she is running. And I felt that kind of energy from the way that she was describing it, although it was lacking a bit, in my opinion, on the policy front, but not on the emotion front. And as a Greek, I'm very big on the analytics as well as the emotion. So it's nice to have a solid blend there. There were a couple of good laughs. Fair saying he went in blank and thinks DeVille did better than expected. I agree. Carla says Rick was pushing back because Mark has attacked him the last time. Interesting. I didn't hear or see it. I was drinking THC drinks. And Canary asks, how were those drinks? They're good. The one I get tastes exactly like Dr. Pepper, which is deadly because then you drink it like you're drinking a can of Dr. Pepper. Then you're like, oh no. I didn't have to get back on a mic or anything like that, but they're good. And they're small enough that, like, 10 milligrams, you're like, oh, this is tolerable. This is nice. So Jar Manny said, my opinion of the debate last night is that no minds were changed except maybe someone who was planning on voting Katrina, moving to Rick. Just my thoughts. I have nothing to back that up. Rick won the debate 100%, and I'm not saying that because I like him, but because the person who came with me came with no knowledge of the candidates. My debate friend left feeling the same way that she feels about Rick, which is interesting. I can almost guarantee Mark have a very different message when he talks to Republicans. I think you might be right. I sometimes wonder, Jaro, I don't have delusions of grandeur, but I sometimes wonder how much people in Northeast Wisconsin have to talk like they are on an episode of Outside the Box all the time because they know I'm waiting. I'm waiting to be like, motherfucker. Like, I think it's why you're seeing a lot of the local candidates not weigh in on the gubernatorial race, because they know we're hitting a point right now where it can be deemed kind of toxic to put your thumb on the scale specifically in the name of establishment style politics. Yeah, see, Canary, I don't do shit regularly anymore. So when I do a 10 milligram one, I'm like, this is perfect. Since being fired, I have been uniquely sober. I don't know if I would recommend it. See, my issue with Mark is that while he has the most articulated plans, I think some of them are complete crap. That's fair. It's absolutely fair. And you know what's funny, Ethan, is that's why a lot of politicos tell people not to get specific, which is kind of fucked. But they tell people not to get specific because then people take your attitude. And I'm not knocking you for that, but like that should be encouraged, not discouraged. And when you do get specific, it makes it easier for people to be like, oh, well, what about this? Like Kamala Harris said, I'm going to lower housing prices. And the way I'm going to do that is by giving everybody a $15,000 stipend to be able to move into their home. And then all the MAGAs would be like, well, all that's going to do is raise the prices of homes by $15,000 if you don't do anything as a back end check. You're like, oh, well, Donald Trump, what are you going to do? Day one, the prices will be lower. And now here we are almost 2 years later. He's saying, why would I want to lower the price of housing? You know? And it like, I'd argue that's a feather in the cap of don't get specific. Just say random shit and morons like Floyd and Dale will just flock to you. You guys think Floyd is Dale? I'm starting to think it might be the same person. But, yeah, all in all, I think it was a very well-run event. And shout out to the young Democrats who did a fantastic job. I found out I'm still technically young enough to be a young Democrat for another 13 months, so maybe I'll go join. Just to feel young, you know? I'm going to check the Book of Faces here really quick for any additional comments, because Mary's was very poignant surrounding the cost of groceries. I need a haircut so bad, guys. Holy shit. How have you guys let me end up this way? I look unemployed. I'll tell you that. Self-employed, that is, not unemployed. Self-employed. I have seen that episode of Family Guy. Deanne said Floyd is Dale just now. I think I agree. I agree with that. I only look a little self-employed. I need a little bit of a cut. Although Miss J told me I need to keep it longer on the top and just trim the sides. So I might try that. Yeah, there she is right there. I remember you saying that. I'm going to do it. I'm going to see how it looks. We'll see what happens. Scott says, I refuse to shop at Walmart nor Amazon. Neither one of them has made America any better at all. Instead, they destroyed the small business that made community strong. Exactly. That's also part of the conversation that ties into tariffs, ties into our offshoring, ties into wage suppression, which in my opinion ties into the healthcare crisis, ties into our declining school statistics. To me, that's what intersectionality is. It shows how all of this stuff is tied together, works hand in hand to kind of keep us entrenched in a broken system, almost to the point where it feels existential to destroy it and try something new. And that's kind of it's a very strange place to be, economically speaking, because I know that this is broken, and I don't know how you get out of it without things getting way worse first. And that's a hard pitch. It's a hard pitch to make. But like, you're exactly right. Walmart showed up and said, look how cheap all our shit is. And that was in the early 2000s when Reaganomics was still in full effect, but we really hadn't grasped exactly how fucked we were economically at that point yet. And of course, everybody's looking for the cheap deals. It's why we trample one another on Black Friday. So you got people funneling into Walmart, choking out all the small businesses. All the small businesses closed. Now there's no competition. And Walmart's prices aren't that particularly impressive these days. And it's because they don't have to worry about competing. I remember if you went to the local grocery store in Pittsburgh, that was when you could get a 6 20-ounce thing of pop and it would be like 5 something back in the day. And Walmart would be like, oh, you can buy 4 of those for $11 total if you come here. And it's like, well, oh, obviously I'm going to do that. And now you go to Walmart and they're like, yeah, we want $7 for 1 6-pack of pop. And you're like, fuck did I get here? And to me, that's just a microcosm. Then you ship the jobs overseas so that they can make stuff cheaper so that nobody bitches that their wages aren't going up. So you got Walmart making shit cheaper. You got Amazon making shit cheaper. You have the sweatshops making shit cheaper. And then Colin Kaepernick goes and takes a knee. But Ben, what does that have to do with anything? Nike shows up and says, we stand with Colin Kaepernick, buy our shoes. And liberals lined up to throw their weight behind a shoe company that makes their product overseas using sweatshops and makes a 90% markup on the products that they sell. But Black Lives Matter. So I guess everything's all cool now. It has been a 45-year microcosm that people, or a 45-year trajectory that we have been on that people are only waking up to right now. Wave 1 says, and now Giant Eagle is about to be bought by Kroger. We allowed too many mergers. Wait, is that real? Because I know in Wisconsin, no one knows what Giant Eagle is, but that's fucking crazy if that happens. Because then Giant Eagle's also GetGo. So you got the fucking gas stations and the grocery stores, and that's all going under Kroger, which was trying to merge with Albertsons, if I remember correctly. Jim says, in my opinion, the Democratic candidates, all of them, should be taking shots at the Republican candidates, i.e. Tiffany Weed, every time they speak in public. I would agree with that, but Justin disagrees. He said that's a tactic of the right, and it's all I hear instead of their policies. People are smart enough to vote against whoever doesn't represent them, but they need a reason. So I agree with both of you, actually, because I feel like they should be coming with policy, but then they should be highlighting how their policy differs from what the people who are currently in power have been enacting. And more importantly, why it differs from the Democrats the last time they had control. But I do feel what you're saying there. But I think highlighting the illegal war in Iran and the failure that tariffs have been is a very smart strategy for 2028. But not only that. I think that's an important distinction as well. Jay said she thought that already happened. Biden blocked the Albertsons Kroger merger. Now they're shopping for something. We need stronger antitrust enforcement. Stop stock buybacks. Yo, Tilda and Maggie, I don't know if you've been here a lot, but that's like my whole thing. You'll love it here if you haven't been around. I hope you're going to become a regular here because you're going to have fun. Careful, Ben, saying I remember is a boomerism. I remember walking both ways uphill. We had it so hard as boomers. My house cost 3 bushels of raspberries, and I had to come up with a jaunty tune. I'm saying that because I know it's driving Brian nuts. I can't help myself. But yeah, so I mean, back to bring it full circle to the debate, and I'm very excited for not so much tomorrow's show as much as Wednesday's show, because like I am counting down the minutes until the Michigan primary and we have the results, because I think that's going to be such an awesome barometer. And I will be having a watch party. Obviously, it's going to be a better one for the Wisconsin one. I actually might be collaborating with Resistance Radio up in Green Bay next Tuesday. But tomorrow, assuming I can find somewhere for Ben After Dark, we might be watching the results come in live, which will be great. But you know what? Finding somebody that has TV channels and internet access in 2026 is difficult. I'll tell you that. 1980 Republican platform was supply-side economics, a strong national defense, and social conservatism. I'd argue that's what 2026 Republican platform is. I'd be hard-pressed for people to explain to me what's different between Reagan and Trump right now. Major tax cuts, balancing the federal budget, and reducing government regulation to combat inflation. Oh, and if you haven't seen, speaking of debt and deficit reduction, Donald Trump's responsible for 16 trillion of the 40 trillion that we have in debt over his 2 terms. We've seen a crazy increase just over the course of the last year and a half, a little longer than that, actually. And bet me, Ron Johnson immediately figures out when Democrats are in control how to be a fiscal conservative again. Again, I'm done paying that argument any credence because clearly you don't give a shit. And I'm not going to all of a sudden be the bigger person when it comes to not doing social programs in the name of debt and deficits, but will blow the fuck up out of the entire Middle East without any worries about what other ramifications of that whatsoever. Like, I'm not falling for that at all. Yeah, I'm in favor of mudslinging, not as a primary tactic, but I'm not afraid to. I mean, you guys have seen my social posts. If people are acting out, I let them have it. I think that's a very crucial part of political discourse, and especially because if MAGA wants to play the liberals and leftists are all snowflakes, blah, 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 then I think you got to prove that kind of stuff wrong. By the way, Financial Times, to take it, this is actually a nice bow to wrap up with. Financial Times has an opinion piece out right now for their European publication. We're talking about debt and deficit spending. We're talking about social programs. And I made this point when Trump became president. And he said, European nations have to pay more into NATO, have to pay more for defense. And I said that was a strategy by design because more and more people, as the internet becomes ubiquitous, as social media becomes ubiquitous, more and more people are waking up to the fact that we're the only nation that doesn't have free college, free healthcare, free childcare. All of these programs we're told are unaffordable or are handouts. All the other European nations have them and they're not worried about it. And I said, Donald Trump is going to force them to increase their defense spending so that they have to cut social spending so that people like me can't point and say, how come all these other countries figured out how to do this, but we can't seem to do so? Flash forward to this weekend. Europe must trim its welfare state to build a warfare state. There is no way of defending the continent without cuts to social spending. Looks like I was right again. What else is new? Brian, what's this? You throwing a pity party? Brian isn't the only one being driven nuts by the attacks on boomers, says Herb. Hey, don't blame me, all right? Boomers preferred Mandela Barnes as their candidate. Like, they still aren't learning lessons, all right? All I'm doing is reporting the data and highlighting the lunacy of it all. Boomers are bringing the lids experience. Absolutely. And for the record, guys, I obviously like to rib and bust balls / ovaries. It's kind of my thing. It's all in good fun. I went to Erin, the intern's house for 4th of July. Her grandparents invited me over. And they listen all the time. They're probably listening right now. And her grandfather comes up and said something about boomers. He's like, I appreciate you coming and hang out with us, even though we are boomers that hung your generation out to dry. And it's very funny when the consequences of my comments are thrust back in my face in real time. Because it's one thing to do this with all of you guys. It's another thing when they're in front of you. And it's very funny. It's very fun. Cassandra's saying, don't blame me. I voted for Kodos. Yeah, exactly. But, like, I'm not wrong either, though. And Jim says we deserve most of the ribbing. That's my point. You deserve it. But, like, again, it's not like I'm painting with a broad brush because, again, I had parents that, or have a parent still that absolutely has my back. I read online, people are like, my parents know that I'm about to lose my apartment and they're going on their 4th cruise this year. I don't have those parents. Like, I have, if shit ever truly hit the fan, they would do whatever they needed to do to bail me out. They've been that way their whole life. And I know that population absolutely exists within the boomer generation. But by and large, where it ultimately stems from, and I really need you guys to understand this, as a millennial that graduated into the recession, that was told that my economic strife was in my head, and as a result of me paying $8.99 for a Netflix subscription, I was like, I don't think you guys know what you're talking about. But I also, as a young 20-something, showed deference. And I was like, well, I also am just entering adulthood. Maybe it really was like this for everybody. And now 16 years later, I'm like, oh, so you guys are just fucking pretending at this point that it's because people are lazy and don't want to work, because there's countless evidence to the contrary of that at this point, and I feel like you're ignoring it. And so that's where the animosity comes from. This show, the reason why it was the #1 rated show, specifically with people 25 to 54, and it will be still, is because millennials are the first generation to be told you're lazy, you're entitled, you don't want to work for what you have. And while I'm sure that fits with certain elements of my generation as well, it is in no stretch of the imagination able to be applied to the whole. And then to see the exact same tactics exemplified against Gen Z, I'm like, oh, well, no, wait a minute. You guys said the exact same bullshit to us. And I'm here to tell you right now, yeah, I escaped this broke ass system, but most people don't. And seeing that kind of play out in real time for a second generation, a generation younger than me, I'm like, oh, well, no. Now, to the point of the conversation going up in the chat, I'm a counterpuncher. I've told you that since day one. 5% of me is Donald Trump. It's my worst 5%, but I'm 5% Donald Trump. And like, yeah, I'll rib a little bit. I'll throw a couple jabs in there because I'm frustrated, and because for a decade, I was gaslit into thinking that my economic strife and what I was going through was somehow a ubiquitous experience and not being brought about from the beginning of this end stage capitalism that we feel ourselves fully entrenched in at this point. I guess that's a really long way for me to say, waka waka boomers, facts don't care about your feelings. LOL. Boomers would tell you to make more frugal financial choices if you want to get ahead in life, then ask you for your Netflix login. Exactly. I mean, that is more frugal if you think about it. Wave 184 says millennials work harder, have more degrees to get less forward in life. I would agree with that. I can't tell if you're being ironic or not with this pull yourself up by your bootstraps comment, Brian. But here's a fun fact worth wrapping the show up on. The term pull yourself up by your bootstraps was a term invented in the 1950s. And do you know why people used it in the 1950s? It was meant to describe something that was impossible to do. Because physically it's impossible to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And then a bunch of morons co-opted it and used it to describe picking yourself up out of a broken economic system that's been allowed to kind of debilitate itself for the last 45 years. And nothing makes me laugh harder when people are like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like, oh, so you're telling me it's physically impossible then? Because that was the original intention of what pull yourself up by your bootstraps actually meant. And it absolutely kills me when people use that. So I can't tell if you're being ironic or not. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here rather than mocking you. But the urge to mock you is strong right now. Jim says, you see, that's the thing. Most people that escape the system believe they did it all by themselves. No help from anywhere. Not only that, Jim, I'm supposed to tell you guys about how the system's not broken because I escaped it. I was born not into wealth, no connections. It's not like my dad worked in media and got me a job in media or anything like that. Like, I built the whole thing. But I I had friends that were, hell, even this moment here, I got fired and the entire Fox Valley community rallied around me immediately. And to like act like that was lost on me, that was actually supposed to be, and I didn't even do a segment about it today. I meant to start the show off with that. We'll start the show there tomorrow. Do you know how many people with Trump bumper stickers and like back the blue flags and all that bullshit were showing up? I volunteered 3 days last week to help with the tornado cleanup. And do you know how many Trump cars showed up to the parking lot, not to receive, but to help disseminate, to take part in community outreach in a social program that was benefiting people that had fallen on hard times in the moment? It was incredibly uplifting, and I'm not here knocking those people for being there whatsoever. But it blows my mind that so many people could show up doing what they knew to be the right thing in the aftermath of the tornadoes, and then will immediately shit on food benefits, on SNAP benefits on the other side. Like, that's crazy to me that that's a thing that happens. Brian's saying it's one of my better shows since leaving that shitty little radio station. You got me fired up twice. First they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they fight you, and then you win. Exactly. I would never fight Brian, though. I ran into Brian 2 times in like 3 days. And his wife. Lovely people. We get along quite well, actually. Just bad at recognizing the shortcomings of boomers is all. But that feels like as good a note as any. Call it a program. We have a rescheduled guest tomorrow, Grace Abbott's. We spoke to her challenger about 3 weeks ago, Shauna Riley, running in the 56th district in Wisconsin. I had her scheduled for Tuesday of last week, but obviously I didn't have a show. I actually had one of my moderators, Allie, because I have her personal phone number. I had to text her from a building, not my own place. And I was like, hey, I need you to reach out to this person and tell her that we can't do the interview right now. But she was at the, she actually is the first woman who speaks. If you watch the debate video on my Ben Comino's YouTube page that you're then going to subscribe to, she is the first speaker and Shauna Riley is the second speaker. Grace is going to be on this show at 10:30. I also have Mark Scheffler scheduled for 10:30 on Wednesday. We're going to get Katrina DeVille and Rick Crossan scheduled on the program as well. Mark just reached out to me via Facebook Messenger at a time when I had internet. So that was a good move on his part. So I was able to do something very relevant there. I see Luke saying GOP's in for a rough few years. Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on with that, buddy. I can tell by the trolls coming in here that really can't defend what they have to say. They just come in and talk shit. Is your signed sponsor a boomer? He's on the cusp. Yeah, but he gets it. He calls me like 2 or 3 times a week after the aftermath of a show to talk about it. I meant to meet up with him today, but I have to actually wrap this show up, write my article for Minocqua, and then going to check out the new space for my studio, get like an official layout of exactly how much space. We're actually going to move up the announcement of the paid sponsorship for the new studio. We'll probably be making that announcement later this week. I'm going to create some fanfare on social media, like a pump-up video or something. And then I'll be making the announcement later this week. Some of you can probably guess who it is, but don't type it in the comments because I want it to be a surprise for everybody else. But so Grace Abbott's 10:30 on Tuesday. Mark Scheffler, 10:30 on Wednesday. And I will have the other District 8 candidates on the show as well as we continue rolling along. So awesome stuff here. Thank you very much for being here. Follow me on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and, of course, subscribe to the Minocqua Brewing Company Substack as well. We'll do it again tomorrow. Probably no Ben After Dark, unfortunately, barring an internet miracle, but we'll see what happens here. I'm going to log off of YouTube and Facebook. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.